So it's going to be a no by July. Hi, I'm Colleen Delaney. I clearly have a book buying problem. And today we're going to talk about the books I'm going to read the rest of the summer. Now, I had to do that little intro because I'm just messing with my camera because I can't fit everything in frame unless I'm quite far away from the camera, which I don't love. I have a lot of books to read. Also, hi, how are you? I haven't been here in a long time. Summer is hard for me to film. I have kids, they're not at camp very much. Right now, I think I have 90 minutes before I have to pick up the little ones from camp. So I'm gonna be here very sporadically until September. But I have a lot of books to read. Kind of an ungodly amount of books to read. So I thought I would just go through all of them with you and talk about what I think I'm gonna read when and how that's gonna happen. I'm 100% not gonna buy any books in July. I did pre-order Carol Goodman's new book, which is coming out the end of July. I can't remember exactly what date. But other than that, I will not be purchasing any books in July. I'm even at the point where I think I'm gonna skip book of the month this month because I got 3 books in May. I've only finished one of them so far. I'm about almost halfway done with the second one. And then I got 2 books in June because I got I forget, you get free birthday credit the month after your birthday. And I just thought they maybe weren't doing it anymore. So I ordered 3 books in May and I really should have saved one of those for my free book credit. It doesn't matter. So I have 4 new-ish books from Book of the Month I haven't read. And then I also have one I got a couple months ago that I haven't read. And then I have The Secret History, which I don't count and I didn't bring down, which is also another one I haven't read. So most likely I'm not even gonna get a book of the month in July. I have so many books that I purchased for my birthday. I went on vacation in June to Oregon or Oregon, however you say it. And I went to Portland and I went to both Powell's and Grand Gesture Books. Grand Gesture Books was amazing. If you want to go to a small romance bookstore where you're going to get so much one-on-one help, that is the ticket. I don't have the book in here that I bought there because I already finished it. I read it when I was on vacation. It was very sweet and fun. I shouldn't say sweet because in romance, sweet means something else. It was very spicy and comforting. That's what I'll call it. But now I just have all these books. And not like that much time. We're in the middle of a big heat wave and our air conditioning broke for 2 days, but this morning it just got fixed. So right now it's about 85 degrees in my house, which is way better than it was last night at about 90. So hence the hair up, which I almost never do, and it's very frizzy, but that's where we are. So I've been very busy also with a lot of edits. I haven't had a ton of reading time in the last 2-ish weeks. I hope that's gonna change. Once I finish this round of edits, I'm gonna kind of give myself, I have to write something, but I'm gonna give myself more reading time. So let's talk about what I'm gonna read in the rest of June, July, and August. Let's just start with Book of the Month. I'm gonna go through all of them. I think that's the easiest place to start. And I'll tell you about when I think I'm gonna read them. First, The Amalfi Curse by Sarah Penner. I'm on page 138 out of like 3 something. Let's see, about 325. So I'm not quite halfway done, but I'm getting there. I'm liking this. I'm not flying through it. So I am going to, after I finish this, do a little more work and then let myself do a little bit of reading before it's time to do the whirlwind of camp pickup. It's supposed to thunderstorm this afternoon, so I won't be reading outside, but maybe my kids will let me read inside. I can dream. This is 2 timelines, kind of like The Lost Apothecary was. We have one timeline is the 1800s. I'm trying to remember exactly what year. Let's see if I can find it quickly. 1821. And we have Mari, and she's like a water witch. She's called a siren. She lives in Positano. Always wanted to go there, never have been. And she can kind of control water and do these spells, but she kind of has this strained relationship with her magic because she feels like the water, the sea has taken a lot from her. And then in the modern timeline, we have Haven, and Haven is like a scuba diver. She's not like an instructor, but she and her father have explored shipwrecks, and there's this shipwreck near Positano that she really wants to explore. So that's the setup. It's good. I'm not totally engrossed yet, but I have a feeling I was really tired last night because I didn't sleep the night before, and then I really didn't sleep last night because it's just so oppressively hot. But I think that I'm about to get to the point where it'll become unputdownable, which I'm looking forward to. So that's what I'm reading right now from Book of the Month. What I will most likely read next is The Bombshell by Darrow Farr, which I did start. Do I even have my bookmark in here anymore? Yes. I read just the first chapter before we went on vacation. It was kind of I didn't do a good job with how I structured my reading in June because I was reading Home of the American Circus. I can't remember what that right now. Alice and something. From Book of the Month, which is a hardcover. And I was like 200 pages into it. And then I started reading this, The Bombshell, which is a hardcover. And I read the first chapter. And then I went out of town and I wasn't going to carry any hardcovers. I brought my Kindle and one paperback. And so I was kind of like, oh no, that wasn't a good plan. And so I didn't pick this one back up yet. But I can tell by the writing style that I am going to like this book. It's about, I think she's 17. A 17-year-old who's getting kidnapped. She's already kidnapped in the first chapter by a revolutionary group in Malta in the 90s. And I think she's going to become like the face of the revolution. So I am looking forward to that. I did see a review that was like, let teens do domestic terrorism as a little treat. So I think it's going to be mostly like teenagers being revolutionaries. So we'll see. But I like the writing style, so I think I'm gonna like that. Okay, next. My next three, I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna read, the order in which I'm going to read them. I think I'm gonna read The Favorites next, by Lane Fargo. This, I was like, this is from a couple months ago, January 2025. I was just always kind of like on the fence about this because I keep seeing it a lot of places, and it keeps being like, I think I've talked about this before. My local bookstore has a top 10 sellers of the week, which I really think is cool. They put up the 10 bestseller books of the week in their window, and then they also put on their Instagram. And this has been in it a lot, not consistently, but often. So I was like, I think I do want to read it. It's a contemporary fiction about Olympic skaters, but it's like 10 years later and they're talking about it. So I thought that would be kind of cool. Sadly, after I read Home of the American Circus, I was kind of like off contemporary fiction. And so I am going to give myself obviously a little bit of time because I'm not going to finish Amalfi Curse, read The Bombshell, and then read this. I'm going to read a bunch of these other books in between there. So I think I'm going to give myself enough time that maybe I can jump back into a contemporary fiction and not feel like, I don't know, it was just a weird, contemporary fiction is interesting because I never really liked it till recently. And then I've been reading a lot of it. And so maybe it's just one of those genres I'm gonna dip my toes into and then dip my toes out of. Now the last two are both really big books. And honestly, I'm feeling August, September for both of them for weird reasons. And I'll tell you why. One is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I read The Invisible Life of Addy Laroo in September. And I thought the mood of it was very like beginning of autumn, just because it feels a little bit mournful, which I feel like the beginning of autumn always feels a little bit mournful. And so I might not read this till September. I might read it earlier. It's really long. It's over 500 pages, and that is intimidating. But I really loved Addy Laroo. It was so sad. It was one of the saddest books I read that year. But I think I would like to read this in either August or September, if I'm being honest with myself. Maybe I'll read it before then. I don't know. Maybe one of my friends will read it and be like, read it right now so we can talk about it. Because that usually does it for me. That's why I read Addy Laroo. One of my really good friends said, she like rarely cries when she reads books. And she was like, I read The Invisible Life of Addy Laroo and it made me cry and I think you'd love it. And she was right. But I like this. Starts with the poem. Bury my bones in the midnight soil, plant them shallow and water them deep. And in my place will grow a feral rose, soft red petals hiding sharp white teeth. Oh, V.E. Schwab, you're a good writer. And then lastly, I've been like kind of like just like in an August frame of mind for this book, probably because in August is when I start to be like dark academia. And it's Ninth House by Leah Bardugo. This is YA fantasy dark academia. I think it takes place in Yale. Yes. And I don't know much other about that, but it's one of my friend's favorite books. And I've never read a Leah Bardugo. So I thought this would be a good one to start with. So it's another long one, but it's YA. So, no, it's not. It's adult. I thought you wrote YA. Okay, bummer, because I was thinking it was YA, so I'd fly through it. It'll be okay. I can read grown-up books, obviously. I almost never read YA. That's my last book of the month, since we're not counting Secret History, which I have until December. And then if I don't read it, I have to sell it. It's looking like I'm going to sell it. Okay, so next, let's do the pile that is my most anticipated next to up reads. So that's kind of a weird way to say it. But I want to read Summer of 69 by Ellen Hildebrand, and I want to finish it before the end of July. It's going to happen because as soon as I finish the Amalfi Curse, this is what I'm going to read next. I like an Ellen Hildebrand in the summer. I usually read one in June, but it just didn't work out this month. I mean, I might still, let's say the 24th, until May the 24th. There's a chance if I finish the Amalfi Curse tomorrow or the next day that I could still finish it before the month is up, but I'm just going to read it next. Is the way I'm going to do it. It's 1969. We're on Nantucket. I felt like this was a good one for me to choose. I'd already picked it before I felt like I was off contemporary fiction, but this is going to feel a little historical fiction-y to me because I wasn't alive in 1969, and people are counting the 90s as historical fiction when I was very much alive and a teenager. This is up next. I will hopefully love it. After that, I'm kind of going in between two books, and it'll probably depend on how much alone time I get and if I'm spending that alone time at the beach. So if I'm spending alone time at the beach, I want to read Husbands and Lovers by Beatrice William. It's 2 timelines, New England 2022, Egypt 1951. I bought the paperback on purpose instead of the hardcover from Book of the Month because I wanted to read it on the beach. Mainly, I think because the paperback cover that's not what the beach looks like where I live, but it's very beautiful and very beachy. So it's about like post-World War II is the first timeline, a Hungarian refugee who marries a British diplomat and they're living in Cairo. And then the one in 2022 is about a single mom whose son has like a lot of issues. And then we're also like health issues. And then we're also looking at her mom's adoption from Irish orphanage. So I don't know how she's gonna tie it all together, but I look forward to it. I haven't read a Beatrice Williams yet, but I've been wanting to try her for a while. So that one's gonna be my first one. And then the other one that might be next is The Last Session by Julia Bartz. I actually had this on my bedside table a couple nights ago, thinking I would maybe start it because I left Amalfi Curse, I think in my backpack. And so I grabbed this one in case I wanted to read it, but then I was exhausted and didn't read before bed. But I'm looking forward to this one too. She wrote The Writing Retreat, which I really like. This one's about a marriage retreat. So she likes to retreat. But this one I think is the desert. Yeah, you're in New Mexico. The other one was upstate New York, I think, somewhere in New England-ish. There's like a charismatic couple who hosts a controversial retreat. And the writing retreat is basically about a charismatic woman who hosts a controversial retreat. And so I would like to read this. I like a good thriller, and I haven't read a thriller in a while. You wouldn't know because I didn't do a May wrap-up or a June wrap-up yet. It's coming. And then lastly, my on-deck book is Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan, which is a summery contemporary romance. So I will read that before the end of July. It's weird. I know summer goes through August, and where I live, it's hot till the end of September. But I get very in like back to school frame of mind by like August 10th. So any of my books that are real summery vibes, I tend to want to finish them before that. And then I move more into like my dark academia reading, like back to school sort of feeling. So this one I would like to get to before August 10th. I could probably do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Totally can do that. Okay, yeah, I'll get to it. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay, let's move on to ones that I think that are just like a little bit lower down the list. Okay, so I have 5 books in this pile. I'll get to some of these, probably not all of them, if I'm being honest with myself, which I should be. I need to go on vacation by myself. That's what I need to do. So the first is Funny Story by Emily Henry. I've never read an Emily Henry. The reason I haven't read this or Summer Romance yet is because I bought 3 contemporary romances, I think, on my birthday. Not like in general, but on my birthday, I bought 3 contemporary romances. And the first one I read was the Carly Fortune one I bought every summer after. Let's see if my brain works. And I didn't love it. And so I kind of have been like a little bit putting off reading another contemporary. I read one more contemporary romance that I did like. And, but it's kind of, I think I've kind of grouped the 3 of these together with these 2 of these with the Carly Fortune. And I've kind of been like, oh, I don't know if I want to read another one of these. But I don't think either of these are going to have the plot issue. It's like a personal preference. The writing style was great. I just have a personal preference about the plot, which I'll talk about in my wrap up at some point. But so this one has kind of been on the back burner. It takes place in Michigan, which I love. I'm a Great Lakes girl, and I should probably read this in the summer too. I don't know if it necessarily takes place during the summer, but it kind of feels like it has a summer feel. Most likely August. The next one's 100% August, and it's The Witching Tide by Margaret Meyer. I bought this at Powell's. All the Powell's bookmarks that I took for my kids and I are in this book. Honestly, it was I have been to Powell's once before. I love a big bookstore. I love any bookstore. And it was a little bit hard for me to shop because my kids were with me and they liked it a lot, but they also wanted to spend around $500 each, with the exception of my oldest, who was like, I don't want to buy anything, but I think he did pick out one book. I can't even remember. I had picked out 2 other books, which I'll show you in a second. And then we were trying to get ready to leave. And there was a YouTuber filming her entrance over and over and over and over again by the door. My kids were getting real like antsy and they were like, what is she doing? I'm like, okay, just let her do her job. Like, it's very crowded. So I was like, to my husband, I'm like, can you just give me 5 minutes? Because the entrance area has a lot of tables, like historical fiction, contemporary fiction, thriller, like if you want to just grab one of their bestsellers. And I'm like, let me just look at these tables. I know I don't have time to go through the whole shop. We did spend like an hour there, but it is hard to, like, I could spend 15 hours there. And so I like ran over to the historical fiction table and I was like, I want to get this. It's England, 1645. Martha, who's a midwife, healer, and a servant, sold, is living a peaceful life. And then a sinister newcomer appears. He's a witch finder. His name is Silas Makepeace, which is the best villain name I've ever heard, and has been blazing a trail of destruction along the coast. I love a midwife being accused of witchcraft. I'm probably going to read this in August or even September or even October. So I'm not like pushing this one towards the front of the group. But if I get a hankering for a historical fiction of this time period, then I might pick it up early. My other 2 books I got from Powell's were 2 Lindsay Sands. I got them used. It's Hunting for a Highlander and Highland Treasure. This one is Jordy Buchanan's book, which is later in the series. And then this one is Rory's, which I wanted to read this one quite a bit. Oh, I found another bookmark. That's from a bookstore around here. I wonder, I must have put that in there. Oh, you know why? I brought this on the plane with me just in case I had time to read on the plane flight home. It was a nightmare and I did not. So this one is Rory, who's like the healer, the modern medical doctor. He finally gets his book. These 2, I'm going to read whenever I feel like it. So in a week, maybe I'll pick up one of these, or maybe I'll read one in July and I'll read one in August. I don't know. It'll be whenever I feel like it. And then lastly in this section, I have The Vanishing Hour by Serafina Nova Glass. This is a thriller. I think it takes place in Maine, and it's about a woman who escaped a killer who now a lot of women who look like her are disappearing, and she thinks he might be back. This is another one. I'm going to pop that in whenever I feel like reading a thriller. This also seems like it'd be a good one to bring to the beach. Okay, let's keep it going. I have 2 books on here that I'm probably not going to read, but I'll just show you them really quickly. What is that? Oh my God, I did start this. I forgot I started one of these. Okay, so they are Soul of the Witch by Deanna Chase. I bought this a long time ago, I think Christmas maybe. And I do think I'm gonna read this August, September, October. And then lastly, The Great Relievers by Rebecca Mackay, which I forgot I did start. I'm on page 6, but never finished, obviously, or never even finished the first chapter. I'm just been like a little bit apprehensive about starting this because I know it's supposed to be really sad. So I don't know. I feel like September is a month that I put a lot of like emotional books in usually, but I have a book release this September. So I don't know if I'm going to be wanting to read like really all this really emotional stuff in September, but I'm putting a lot in there right now. Moving on. Now here are the nonfiction books I have. We got 2 more categories left, nonfiction and Kindle. So the first nonfiction book I have that I have started, and honestly, I will finish probably pretty soon because now I'm gonna allow myself. I'm using a dollar bill as a bookmark. It's Dreamwork by Mary Oliver. So I've read a few of the poems so far and they've been lovely. And now I'm gonna put this back. I like put it away because I don't like to read my poetry too fast. I'm gonna put this back on my bedside table and let myself read a couple a night and probably finish it very quickly now because of that. Next, I have Bird by Bird, Some Instructions on Writing in Life by Annie Lamott. This is a writing a book on writing, like a book on the craft of writing that I have heard great things about and sold a lot of when I worked at the bookstore that I bought it from. And so I'm taking the price tag off right now. Love that feeling. I think I'm gonna read this slowly. I think this is gonna be one of those books that I read like a couple chapters and a couple chapters. And maybe right now I'll put it on my bedside table and start the reading it slowly. I kind of like that idea. These two, poetry and the craft of writing, can sit next to each other and help me out when I'm not feeling particularly like reading whatever book I am in the middle of. Now let's move on to some historical nonfiction. First I have Medieval Lives. 8 Charismatic Men and Women of the Middle Ages by Norman F. Cantor. I began this. This is a couple biographies. What the heck? I'm on page 4. Oh, did I read the introduction? I thought I got further into this. But it's basically 8 chapters. No, I did not. There's a short preface. I don't even know if I read that. It's 8 different people, a short biography of each of them. Didn't love the voice when I started it. So what I think I'm gonna do, I think this will be a book I'm going to read over years, which I have books like that. But I think maybe in July, I'll try to finish the first chapter, August the 2nd, do it kind of like that, because they are little kind of their own, each chapter is kind of like their own thing because it's about a different person. And then in that same vein, I have A World Lit Only by Fire, which I really want to read, but I don't know when I'm going to read it. It's not that long. 296 pages. Oh, I love it. I bought this used and oh my God, I love this. There's a bookmark in it. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. It's an appointment card for the All Saints Eye Center in Naples, Florida. I don't live near Florida. Dr. Zim. And then on the back, your next appointment is January 31st, 2005. I was in college then. That's crazy. I'm going to use that as this bookmark when I read that book. I love when that happens. So fun. Okay, and then lastly, I don't think I'm going to read this because I did get to page 62 and it was fine, but I listened to some on audio, I read some, and it's The Garden Against Time by Olivia Liang, and I just didn't love her voice very much, so it's here in case I decide to pick it up, but it's not high priority at all. Now, did you think we were done? We're not done. It was Stuff Your Kindle like 3 days ago, and I already had a ton of Kindle reads. So I'm just gonna open my Kindle so I can read it because that'll be so much easier for me. I got a lot of freebie books in the last Stuff Your Kindle, which my book, Stealing His Mate, was in. But so I also have some ARCs in here, so I'm just gonna go through them really fast. I always have a theme whenever I do a Stuff Your Kindle. This year's theme was paranormal, romance, mostly shifter related. So I have Not Half Badger by Lauren Esker, Declan's Dilemma by, it's so hard for me to read I think this is Julie Ranseth, Made It to the Beta, can't even see the author on that. Big Bad Mate by Vera Rivers, Elusive Embrace by Danny Elias. Oh, I also got some romantic suspense because I'm kind of hoping romantic suspense swings back into popularity because I'm not a rom-com reader, but I like romantic suspense, like as a contemporary type of story. So I did grab, I think, 2 of those. Then I have, good Lord, Cooper, can't read the author, Stolen by the Bear, Felicity Heaton, The Veteran by Summer Rivers, Taming Alaska by Catherine Rhodes, Maneuver by maybe Noelle Bliss, something L Bliss. Then I also have an arc for the Gilded Heiress by Joanna Shoup, who I do really like her stuff. She writes Gilded Age romance. An arc for the Cornish Witch by Elena Collins, which I think is a mystery, but I'm not 100% certain. And then I have an arc for Highland Heart by Kirsten Osborne. I've been at 34% of that book for a long time. I didn't love it, and so I'm kind of going back and forth on whether I want to DNF it or I want to finish it. If you DNF a lot of, that's an arc from NetGalley. If you DNF a lot of books, you kind of get like dinged, like you won't get as many books. So I try not to DNF books too often. Like if I'm going to DNF a book, I try to like first review like 7 and then officially DNF a book. So I'll think about that. I have books from like 3 years ago still sitting in there because I'm like, I'll get to it eventually. And there we go. That's everything. So I'm going to count the hard copy books. So there's 21. I could read those over, not counting the Kindle books. I could read 21 books in 3 months. Every once in a while I read 10 books in a month, but pretty rare. So, and usually not when I'm reading like books over 400 and 500 pages. So let's hope I get, out of these 21 books, let's make a goal right this second, live, because I didn't think about this beforehand. I have a big used book sale in my town every year in September. It's usually like September 12th, I feel like, around then, mid-month. And it's always like a big thing that I want to clear out a lot of my TBR shelf so I can get some books from there. And I think I have one from there from last year. Yeah, the Ellen Hills brand I got there. I think that's the only one though. I think the rest are all relatively newer. I've got some up there though that I just didn't bring down. This isn't my entire TBR. There's about 20-ish, maybe more books still upstairs. So from these books, let's say I need to read 16 of them before the book sale. I think that's reasonable. I think I should be able to do that, no problem, right? So help me. Okay, this was a long video with a lot of books. So, have you read any of these? Did you love them or hate them? More importantly, what are you reading for the rest of the summer? Do you have like a book that's like, I want to get this book read before summer's over? Or do you have a list of like 5? Are you like, I want to read this series? Or are you feeling like, I'm just a mood reader, I'm going to read whatever the heck I want, which I wish I could be that free. Whatever it is, tell me about it in the comments, and I'd love to chat about it with you. If you made it this far and you don't want to write words, how about 3 big stack of books emojis for me to let me know you made it to the end, because I've got I have 3 physical stacks, and then I have a big stack on this Kindle. And as always, I hope you're in the middle of a good book, about to start reading a good book, or about to start writing a great book. I will see you soon.